picture. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Over here. Bring it. See, off to the far southwest again. We're about 100 plus miles off our coastline of the West Coast. And some of those armbands moving in. Fort Myers really getting hit heavy with one of these armbands. And we're seeing these kind of outer pockets of weather really give us these little isolated tornadoes. And again, about to be moving into parts of Polk County for us as we take you through the remainder of this afternoon. And Brian, this is something that we had been talking about. I want to take you back to our headlines and kind of what we expect timeline-wise for the rest of the day, because through the rest of this afternoon, hope this isn't the one that I wanted. Let's see if we can find that one.
I'm curious to see what you're popping up there, Cassie. So
you never know what you're going to get. There we are. There's my storm timeline. As we go through this afternoon, we've got the potential for the tornado threat. Really now, through the next couple of hours into our evening, we're only going to see our rainfall pick up, the winds pick up, and even in some of these first batches of rain, we could get some of those power outages. But the worst weather when we talk about the hurricane force winds, tropical storm force winds, the gusts, all of that moving through, that's overnight tonight and into Thursday. So for this afternoon, we're really going to be watching that tornado risk as we continue to watch these feeder bands start to move in. You got anything, Brian?
Yeah, let's kind of reset. So Cassie was really mentioning this tornado watch that we have that includes, it looks like, does that include more of us now? It looks like they did expand it, and we were talking about that it should include more of us. So the tornado watch now does include Lake into Orange, Seminole, back through parts of Volusia for that tornado threat. That is the biggest concern over the next few hours. That's why we need to be indoors to be where we need to be at noon. This is exactly why that tornado threat is definitely increasing. Now you can see where we are. No tornadoes yet, but just to the south where Cassie was showing us, those are the cells that are tornadic, and you see just not far away, and watching all of this lifting to the north. So we are going to start to get some tornado warnings here soon. And what we'll do with these are short-lived tornadoes. What we'll do is we will zoom to it. We will be covering it, but we're still going to cover the big picture on what's going on for you. We're here to keep you safe in all sorts of different ways. Quick look at the wind gust. Nothing too crazy now. It's been windier. It's on now over the east of the gust about 30 miles per hour. Things are going to pick up, especially as the rain starts to really pick up. We're about to get some more bigger batches of rain, and then as we swing toward the evening, the worst weather after sunset. But this year, not too bad. Now, as we hit 6 o'clock, you can see the center of it right here, watching the bands of rain in between some of those dry pockets. But when you start to get the rain now, it is really going to be coming down, and watching out over the next few hours for the tornado. And once we hit 6, and the center of this starts to move on shore, by the time we hit probably just before midnight, right in here, north of the center, that's what will have the hurricane conditions with it. And for our northern tier, the tropical storm conditions, and that's where we can have some of those gusts over 90 miles per hour right in this core here. And I was mentioning a few minutes ago for just joining us, it's going to be kind of a different system. It's going to be transitioning somewhat from tropical to not tropical as it starts to move offshore. And that's why you get these dry pockets that are really going to be sliding into this as we're getting deeper into October now. A different scenario in our fall pattern. So when you get these tropical systems lifting to the north, they are quicker to try to transition out of being a tropical system because it's not really summer. Well, it's not summertime anywhere, but again, up to the north of us, there's a lot in the way of cooler weather. But by 4 in the morning, in this very heavy rain right in through here, that's where we're going to have those really strong wind gusts. And then tomorrow morning, the center moves offshore, but still tropical storm wind gusts. And of course, we are watching our beaches so very much.
soon as it's safe to do so. The other thing that is worth pointing out, it's a lot of focus, understandably, on the west coast of Florida. That's what's going to see the really significant storm surge, particularly where the storm makes landfall and just south of the eye wall is going to likely lead to the most significant storm surge. The way these storms go, they go counterclockwise. If you're on the north side of the storm on the west coast, it may be that that pushes water away from the coast. That's possible depending on how the storm goes in. Right now, the track is that it's going to enter the west coast of Florida and then go almost horizontal across the state, maybe a little east-northeast, and then come out maybe in like southern Brevard County. Look, this can all change in the next 6, 8, 10 hours. But what will happen on the east?
You are listening to live coverage of Hurricane Milton here on WDBO, Orlando's severe weather station.
If you're on the northern side of the storm, the counterclockwise, it's going to bring surge in. So places like Brevard, Volusia, Flagler, St. John's, they're surely likely to see surge. You're likely to see, and we've had issues on the coast there anyways with erosion and whatnot. So just understand that is going to barrel across the state of Florida. It's not just about where it makes landfall. It's going to barrel across the state of Florida. It's going to exit on the east coast of Florida, and that also can produce some storm surge. So just make sure if you're on the east coast of Florida that you understand this is not just a west coast event. The major effects for surge will be on the west, but there is going to be impacts far inland and on the other coast in the state of Florida. The fuel situation, I know when the initial evacuations went out on Monday, and then even on Sunday, with people anticipating massive run on gas, people were crowding the stations. You had long lines. A lot of the gas stations ran out of fuel. We have not run out of fuel overall. When those stations go through it much quicker than normal, they don't have the same delivery schedules that can keep up, so they've got to flex. So what we've done is, one, we've got 1.6 million gallons of diesel on hand just for the state of Florida, and 1.1 million gallons of gasoline for the state of Florida. So that's just us. They're still bringing fuel out of the ports. The ships are not coming in, but the dockside operations have been going. Now, I'd imagine Manatee, Tampa, probably not at this point, just given what's happening. East Coast, that's likely dockside going to slow down too as the storm approaches. But we have to try to overcome. Had Florida Highway Patrol facilitate 106 long-distance fuel tanker escorts. So they got the sirens. They're bringing those gas into the gas stations, and they've done almost 1 million gallons of gas with that. So I appreciate what they're able to do for that. We may have interruption in fuel delivery into Port Manatee, into Port Tampa, depending on the damage from Milton, and we will work on contingencies to make sure we're able to have a supply of fuel. But people should just understand, we've got a lot of fuel on hand from the state. There is a lot of fuel still left at the ports that will be re-engaged from dockside once the storm passes on the west coast. But we could potentially have some of these ports that may not be able to open right away. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. We've been talking about the debris. That mission was an emergency mission to help local communities who suffered a lot of debris and were not getting the debris moved quick enough. Places like the Barrier Islands in Pinellas County, Barrier Islands in Manatee, and even parts of Sarasota Barrier Islands. They worked through the night for the last few days, all the way through last night into this morning, and they've been able to remove a remarkable amount of debris. closed in the Tampa Bay area. Courtney Campbell Causeway and Gandy are closed going into Pinellas County. The condition could be closed completely very soon, and it's just a result of the conditions that are deteriorating. So please understand all closures of those bridges. Until 5 p.m. or it's no longer safe, if you need for ship to shelter, we've partnered with Oops. You want rides for ship to shelter. Milton Relief Washington. Is Milton Relief 1, the number 1. It's Milton Relief 1. And that's going to go till either 5 o'clock today or when it's no longer safe, and that will likely vary depending on where you are throughout the state of Florida. So we have almost 150 shelters that are open for general population. We've got over 3,000 individuals that are in it, but we have space for over 200,000 individuals. So the space available. The county of Bowers, I think are going to have Starlink. I think they're going to give me generator power to keep those power. So it isn't like they're going to be able to use devices with shelter. We also have 36 county-owned special shelters. Our Florida Department of Health works with that. They're opening in areas that are in the pathos store. They're open. And so we have done 6 upgraded supplemental shelters. So these are, we call them shelters of last resort. You're on paid and you think it's getting a little too dangerous, you can pull off and make some places that are far away. Event Center in Tampa, City Furniture in Plainview City, the Big Care in Tampa, Life Science Logistics in Lakeland, Babcock Ranch in Punta Gorda, and then the Wiregrass Sports Camp in Chapter. If you want to go to see your shelter options, go to floridadisaster.org/shelters, and then for any EM updates for your specific county, you can go to floridadisaster.org/county. I want to thank everybody that's been working hard. We've had really round the clock for over 2 weeks now, preparing and responding to Helene, which was done very robustly, very efficiently. We got a lot of people back over the phone very quickly with power and other things. And we knew, because we're in hurricane season, we knew that we weren't necessarily out of the woods. We were hoping that we wouldn't have to deal with anything more, but when it became clear that something was brewing, people continued to help with Helene, but also spring into action to prepare for what is now Major Hurricane Milton. I know there's a lot of folks that have not gotten a lot of sleep over the last few weeks. We've got some more difficult days ahead today, and as we help to rescue people and assess the damage and try to get people back on their feet, but we will absolutely get through it. We can handle this. I've seen great sources of inspiration throughout the state of Florida with our first responders, with people who you can count on us. We're going to be in this all the way till the end. Make sure you protect yourself. Thank these linemen who've come in from all across the country to be able to be here, ready to go, and get people back connected to power as soon as humanly possible when the storm passes through. In the state of Florida, and that are going to be ready to go to get on target and get people connected. Okay, we're going to hear from Kevin Guthrie, Division of Emergency Management.
Thank you, Governor. I'll pick up where the governor left off. We are committed. We are ready to go. The Florida State Emergency Response Team has nearly probably 100,000 assets in the field, to include the 50,000 men and women of the electrical line crews that are working with us. They are members of the State Emergency Response Team. So, Governor, thank you for your leadership in that. We have the right resources to move into the right places at the right time, and this is evidenced by the men and women standing behind you. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Life-threatening storm surge is expected along Florida's west coast and portions of Florida's east coast.
You are listening to WDBO, Orlando's severe weather station, as we continue tracking Hurricane Milton. Does your financial advisor sell products, or do they provide solutions? This is Brian Kilby from Mike Lester and Talon Wealth Management. None of us want to get sold anything, so why are so many financial advisors trying to sell us products like mindset of what they want to sell us in order to get their commissions. There are a lot of good financial advisors out there, but sometimes they're hard to find. Look for a fiduciary that provides solutions, not just products. That's why I want you to know Mike Lester. He's a fiduciary that puts his clients' needs ahead of financial products that pay big commissions. To find out what makes Mike and his team different, call